Goodness, it's hot in here. Okay. A crucial policy that a president could enact to bring speedy improvements to government is ordering the bureaucracy to respect the 10th Amendment and refrain from undermining state laws. The first thing that comes to my mind is, I can't recall if it was directly Selma. Now, Selma has won the Cannabis Cup multiple times for, I suppose, growing the best marijuana, medical marijuana. And the federal government, I think this is Selma, I'm almost positive, wanted to take him to court. They came in, they seized his stuff, they seized his plants. And then he had permission from California to be growing that in the state of California. And because it was a federal matter, federal issue, he could not bring that up in the defense, which of course left him completely defenseless. So 2 weeks in prison. 2 weeks in prison for it. They just confiscated all of this stuff. And I think that's ridiculous. If the state told him that he could grow medical marijuana for the state, then the federal government should have had no say in what was going on there whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, the federal government should have jurisdiction in D.C., and that's it. Anywho. Oh, hey, okay, here we go. We have already seen a little renewed federalism with the current administration's policy of not prosecuting marijuana users when their use of the drug is consistent with state medical marijuana laws. A constitutionalist administration would also defer state laws, refusing compliance with the Real ID Act and denying federal authority over interstate gun transactions. None of these actions repeal a federal law. They all simply recognize a state's primary authority as protected by the 10th Amendment to set policies in these areas. And this is the final part that's going to sum up my plan for a freedom president. And, okay, in fact, none of these measures I have discussed so far involves repealing any written law. They can be accomplished simply by a president exercising his legitimate authority to set priorities for the executive branch. And another step he can take toward restoring the balance of powers the founders intended is repealing unconstitutional executive orders issued by his predecessors. So, everything that I've read to you so far that Ron Paul would plan to do as a president, that has planned to do if we vote him in as president, are things that do not pull him outside of his powers as the head of the executive branch. Doesn't have to repeal any law. All he's doing is setting strict priorities, which he is in total, he's allowed to do that. That's what I'm trying to say. And of course our next part is what I'm going to start, well, parts of the Constitution is a part of the show that I would like to bring in. And mainly today what we're talking about is the Bill of Rights. And I went to U.S. National Archives and Records Administration, and I've got a pocket Constitution that I keep with me all the time. I've got that one in my back, and that one's on the desk here. But First Amendment, of course, is freedom of speech, press, right to peaceably assemble, petition the government, and speech, press, and religion, of course. Now, there's one major piece of legislation that really took a chop at the Bill of Rights. And if you don't know, the Bill of Rights is our first 10 amendments. And it was added on to, well, pretty much the Declaration of Independence as part of our Constitution in 1787, I believe. So 1787, yeah. Now, let me get to, in case you don't know, the Patriot Act completely shredded Bill of Rights. First Amendment, freedom of speech, religion, press, to peaceably assemble and to petition the government. The Patriot Act is commonly, the USA Patriot Act, commonly known as the Patriot Act, is a statute enacted by the United States government and signed into law by President George W. Bush on October 26, 2001. The contrived acronym stands for United and Strengthening America by Providing Appropriate Tools Required to Intercept and Obstruct Terrorism Act of 2001. Public Law, Pub L 10756. Here we go. The Act increases the ability of law enforcement agencies to search telephone, email communications, medical, financial, and other records, eases restrictions on foreign intelligence gathering within the United States, expands the Secretary of Treasury's authority to regulate financial transactions, particularly those involving foreign individuals and entities, and broadens the discretion of law enforcement and immigration authorities in detaining and deporting immigrants suspected of terrorism-related acts. Now, I guess I still have problems seeing why, if the September 11th attackers came from overseas to get on why are we spying on the American people, the hard-working citizens here, to keep dibs on people over 3,000 miles to our east? I just don't understand. I mean, I do understand. I don't understand how they directly justify it. It makes sense and it doesn't. It makes sense because they tell you it makes sense. Well, of course we want to watch here so that when they do come over here, we can. If you didn't catch them over there with the immense amount of warning signs, look up 9/11 timeline. Should be. I think it's on commonrecords.org. But go to Google, put in the 9/11 timeline, Paul Thompson. Should bring you right to it. And there are at least hundreds of mainstream news articles that were definitely warning our government about the 9/11 attacks. All sources that come from outside, most of the sources coming from outside of the United States. And what I find interesting is that the U.S. Patriot Act seems to completely parallel the Enabling Act, which was practically the same thing word for word that Adolf Hitler put into place in Germany to destroy the civil rights. Now, the Patriot Act allows them to detain you indefinitely without telling you why. They can search your home when you're not home. They can search your home, your humble abode, when you're not there, without you knowing, without a warrant, domestic wiretapping. It's a complete setup to destroy our civil liberties. Now, one thing that the Patriot Act doesn't directly do, except for on the account of them profiling, would be, because of, why wouldn't they profile? Because of religion. So that goes against freedom of religion, because if you come over here and practice Islam, then you're automatically a terrorist target. And that's not how it be, not in a secular nation. So under that aspect, yes, I would say that the Patriot Act tears apart the First Amendment. But I think 6 out of the first 10 are thrashed by the Patriot Act. Now, first one, freedom of speech, religion, press, peaceably assemble, and to petition the government. Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. Third Amendment is no housing of soldiers, even in peace or in wartime. Fourth Amendment is privacy against government searches. Right there. They can search you without a warrant if they think that you're a terrorist. And every day they write legislation for us. They are making the word terrorist more and more